What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Itz Gametime podcast. This is episode number 50. I said that correctly, 50, milestone number 50th episode of the Itz Gametime podcast. My name is Jett, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Eric. Eric, how you doing today?
Episode 50, the big 5-0 in correlation to David Robertson, the great admiral of the Spurs dynasty back in the 90s and early thousands. I think it's good that episode 50 landed on such a Hall of Fame player. But, I mean, we're going to just a little preview of what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about the NBA and mainly the NBA playoffs. I know Jett is very happy with so far the outcome of the NBA playoffs. I am too. My Warriors, they're trucking along. And then we're going to be doing the other big thing we'll be talking about is doing a mock draft top 10, because that's really all people care about, unless you have a favorite team. But if you're not a fan of any of the teams in the top 10, that's the only thing you really care about.
Yeah.
Is that. And sorry, I have the Yankees game on in the background, and I just thought I saw something. But
they'll blow the lead. Yeah.
No, stop! They don't do that.
Yeah.
Our bullpen's the best in the league. But that's a little preview of what we're going to be talking about today is MLB playoffs and mock drafts, because the draft is tonight. We're recording this on a Thursday, so we're recording this roughly around 4 hours before the actual draft happens. So we'll be able to get instant reaction of like whether or not our picks were right or wrong. I will be picking in the style of like what is best for the team. Now, I'm not going to try to predict what's going to happen. I don't know what you're going to plan on doing, because we're doing every other pick. We did a coin flip in which I got the odd picks of the top 10 and Jett got the even picks of the top 10. So I'll be starting off with the first overall pick because obviously I'm the best. So first.
By the way, Eric said he's watching the Yankees game. As you can see, that is a distraction for him. And as you know, for a 50th episode, you really want to be locked in, ready to go.
Whoa,
I'm here.
I
have my notes here ready to go.
I have my notes on the screen right here.
Yeah, so
I got like 10 tabs open.
And he brought up the thing about whatever the NBA playoffs. I forgot exactly what he said, but that's obviously due to the Heat knocking out Trae Young, because obviously you have some beef with him from last year's playoffs. Understandable, but I'm ready to get into whatever we have. I just needed to get that out there. So
well, we can still continue to talk about it for you. All right. I mean,
yeah.
So the Heat, they somehow drop a game in ATL like how I predicted, but they pulled through and they won an advance even without Kyle Lowry and Jimmy Butler to play game 5. I didn't know that they weren't. I didn't know Jimmy Butler wasn't playing. Why didn't he play?
Yeah, he had some like inflammation in his knees. Let me put that in quotes. I don't think the injury. I think if this was like a game 6, game 7 type of thing, I think he definitely plays. But I think the Heat were under the assumption that they could still win without him, even without Kyle Lowry not playing. So they decided to just be able to give him an extra day, get ready for the next series. Obviously, it worked out, and the hope is that I'll be fully ready to go for the Raptors when that series comes along. But
oh, okay, already predicting the end of a series that
no, but
the opposing team's already still up against them.
Yeah, that's who I would like to play, and not necessarily who I believe we will play. But going off the Heat, totally locked down Trae Young and the whole Atlanta Hawks offense. That is, for the most part, all season was a very strong offense. It was really on the defensive end where they lacked, but the Heat had guys swarming Trae Young, whether it's PJ Tucker, Bam Adebayo, Jimmy Butler, really showed off the defensive versatility, being able to shut Trae Young down, really what he does best, especially behind the three-point arc. Really cooled him off there, but it was a team effort. Guys stepped up in different parts of the series. Duncan Robinson in game 1, Victor Oladipo to finish it off in game 5, but the Heat just showed off their depth, and we're going to hopefully continue this trend in getting back to the NBA Finals.
Hopefully. I mean, there's the most threatening team on luckily the other side of the bracket for you guys. The Boston Celtics completely swept the Nets out of the playoffs just with a nice big broom, just pushed them right outside the door. And man, Boston looks good. Like, it's hard to sweep a series against Kevin Durant because Kevin Durant can just win you a game by himself. I think, like, if I was expecting them to go 6 games, but man, did they just they just took KD out of the game somehow. I mean, I know KD still got his, but not as efficiently as he usually is. I mean, he's 7 feet and he can shoot over top of anyone. And Marcus Smart was giving him issues. Jason Tatum's giving him issues. Brown's giving him issues. And so they're moving on. They're going to be playing the Bucks, I believe, who also they moved on, beat the Bulls. I thought that series was going to be a lot more entertaining. It at the beginning of the series, it was going to be pretty entertaining, but the Bucks just pulled away and showed their championship pedigree, which it's great to see if you're a Bucks fan and I know Chris Middleton's dealing with an injury right now, so I don't know if he'll be ready at any point this coming series. If he's not, against the Celtics, man, that series may go 5-6. I don't think that's going to go Game 7 if Chris Middleton doesn't play.
Yeah, just a quick comment on the Nets. So far up to this point, the Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant experiment has not really lived up to the hype. Obviously, no more James Harden in that mix, but even with them, 2 of the most talented players to ever play this game. Maybe if they had Ben Simmons, they would have fared a little bit better. I doubt it.
We're talk about that. We do,
but
about that.
Yeah, but they just don't. They don't have the defensive versatility that the Celtics have, especially with Jason Tatum really taking another step forward this year. The whole second half of the season, the Celtics really started to figure it out, and they were the hottest team down the stretch, and they are definitely have a very good shot at coming out of the East. And in my opinion, the biggest threat to the Heat. But you want to talk about the Ben Simmons injury a little bit?
I wouldn't say injury.
Well,
I'm not saying, I would not even consider an injury. It's just unwillingness to play. I don't know if he's just mentally not in it. If he's not, you have to let the team know that. You can't say there's a possibility of me playing Game 4 and then you're just not going to play Game 4. It's absurd, man. Like, you don't deserve to be in the NBA. You don't, for the way you're treating the 76ers and the Nets, the way you're treating fellow players by not showing up. Even if he's not in the best physical shape, still you should play. If you're coming off the bench, it's something. It's something that the Nets obviously needed. That's the thing. So him just not playing for whatever that's the thing. We don't even know a full reason. He hasn't given an actual reason. We've heard that he's dealing with mental stuff. We've heard that he's dealing with physical stuff, but it's not a clear cut, like, this is what I'm dealing with right now. This is why I cannot play. If you gave the Celtics, if you gave the Nets, and if you gave the 76ers a reason, it would have been understood. But you just kind of not answering their calls. How do you expect to play in the league? You're not going to be playing in the league very soon unless you get your act together, and you filing a grievancy lawsuit against the 76ers because you didn't play. You didn't earn that $20 million.
Yeah. I said injury. It's really not an injury. It's a lot of stuff definitely that's going on behind the scenes with Ben Simmons. I don't know if you recall, but when Ben Simmons was gearing up, practicing and getting ready to play, he came out and said that, or his teammates came out and said that he was looking and feeling like Michael Jordan. His confidence was at another level. Not really sure what happened there. It just, I don't see Michael Jordan ever doing something like that. But I don't know if we will ever see Ben Simmons playing a game again. It seems like he has a lot of other things that he really needs to work on. If he does play, obviously he still had a lot of inefficiencies in his game, most notably, obviously, from the shooting perspective. But defensively, he was always a strong player. But who knows what kind of player if we'll ever see him again.
Well, I mean, if he was willing to play, you could have stuck him on Jason Tatum, and I think he would have been able to hold his own. I think he would have been able to damper Jason Tatum a little bit. I don't think he would have shut him down, but he could have dampered him just a bit to possibly the Nets at least winning a game. And it's not like Ben Simmons could have been the point guard. Kyrie Irving can pull up and shoot. Kevin Durant is a pull up and shoot, like just pass him the ball and he can pop it in for a pop a three. So like it's not like they needed a guy who could shoot. Yeah, it would have been nice for Ben Simmons to shoot, but it's not like Kyrie and KD are clogging up the lane for Ben Simmons to drive to the basket. I mean, and maybe DeAndre Jordan or Andre Drummond, but it just makes no sense that this whole thing, that experiment has gone wrong. Also, I'm not saying, I'm saying the Sixers have won that trade, but I mean, James Harden isn't really going off in the playoffs either. In which for that series, which could end tonight, may not, may go to a game 7. We don't know. He kind of has to step up. He's kind of been quiet. I mean, Embiid's playing with a fractured hand, fractured thumb. James Harden, you have the capability of dropping a 40 piece, and I think this is maybe the night to do it. I think that when the Sixers went up 3-0, they kind of relaxed a little bit, and I get Embiid relaxing a little bit because he has to nurse that thumb of his. But Harden, how about you take over right now? You just get it done with, and then you'll have some time. You'll have maybe like a day or two, I'm not sure, to then I guess we'll relax. It gets Embiid a little bit more time to work with his thumb. So that would be my ask for the 76ers Raptors game is I need Harden to show prime Harden.
Yeah, I just don't think we're ever going to get that. I mean, obviously we could, but in the playoffs, James Harden has a history of not showing up. And obviously, he has the ability to take over a game whenever he wants. But just looking at like what he did compared to his 76ers teammates in the last game, where the 76ers lost by 15. James Harden had 15 points. He shot 4 of 11 from the field. Not a typical James Harden performance. Joel Embiid put together a double-double, and that's with a fractured thumb. They've been getting a lot of production out of Tobias Harris, Tyrese Maxey, but these last couple of games, the Toronto Raptors mindset, that defensive core that they really have put together a great game plan this past couple of games, and it's very like what they're going to be seeing if they do advance to the next round in the Heat. The Heat and Raptors have a very similar play style. Obviously, Doc Rivers has a history of blowing big leads in the playoffs, so that's another thing to keep an eye on. If the 76ers were to lose 4 straight games in this series, things are going to have to change like somewhere, whether it's with firing Doc Rivers, whatever organizational things they want to do. But I do believe, even though I said before, I want the Raptors to win. I do believe the 76ers are going to win this series. I do believe the series goes to a game 7, especially with it in Toronto for game 6. I think 76ers finish it on their home court.
Let's say if the 76ers lose this series, lose 4 in a row, are up 3-0 and end up losing the series, how much of a factor do you think Embiid's fractured thumb would actually be? Because they were working when it wasn't fractured, and now they've fallen apart.
But there's other guys on that team that you have to put more blame on, like James Harden's not stepping up like we've been talking about. I mean, they have no depth, the 76ers, so that's why like they can't afford to even keep Joel Embiid out of the game, because Joel Embiid at like 50% is better than really anyone they have on that bench. So if they do end up blowing this lead, I don't think any of the blame. Maybe you put a little on the injury, but I would put more on the surrounding talent because especially James Harden. I think he'll be the reason if they don't win this series. A lot of the blame will fall on him.
Yeah. Team that is already advanced are my Warriors. They won against the Nuggets by 4. It got a little interesting there. It was a little close for comfort for me. I mean, but hey, I mean, Curry having 30 points last night, man. Sheesh. Like he carried. I mean, Clay had him 15. I mean, it was just Curry. It was just Curry. Doubled anyone close to him. I mean, Gary Payton having 15 points off the bench. Come on now. I don't who would they face?
They face the Grizzlies
the
Grizzlies or the Timberwolves, the most exciting series in the playoffs right now.
You were right. You called it. I'm surprised by it.
Well, no, it's just because it's not even just because of the stuff on the court. It's all the issues with the fans gluing themselves, running onto the court. Like, just there's been a lot of various things that have really been entertaining.
I mean, I don't really have much else to say about the Warriors. They're doing what they.
No, Steph is back. Like he's
back. Yeah. I mean, so we can move on to the Grizzlies Timberwolves games. I mean, kudos to you. You called this series as being the most interesting series. I doubted you because I didn't think the Timberwolves would be able to handle the Grizzlies. I thought the Grizzlies would take care of business, but obviously the Timberwolves are playing with some grit right now. But man, the end of that game. I love that Ja Morant took that shot because there was a guy on the backside, one of his guys. He could have easily drawn the center to him and passed it, and that guy would have had a clean shot, probably a clean dunk, but he wanted to take it himself with his left hand layup, and he got it done. So, I mean, it was great. I'm really happy that he rose to the moment and won them that game. Do you have a prediction for tomorrow night's game?
So this game is going to be in Minnesota, and Memphis is favored by a point. I think Minnesota wins this game. I think we see a game 7 in this series in Memphis. Memphis, I still believe, is going to win this series. They're just too good of a team, led by Ja Morant, to really lose in the first round. They're the number 2 seed for a reason. Timberwolves are going to definitely give them the run for their money, Edwards, Towns, but Ja Morant's going to take over, and he's going to put the bow on it.
All right. Other Suns Pelicans, who thought this was actually going to be a series? Can you tell me how are the Pelicans doing this?
I think a takeaway that I have just from seeing this is that I think we undervalued Devin Booker a little bit. It's showing. Like, he is the real important factor on this Suns team, because I think if he was playing right now, I don't even think the Pelicans pick up a game in this series. I think the Suns clearly sweep this Pelicans team. Keep in mind, this Pelicans team is 10 games under 500 in the regular season, and now they have CJ McCollum, Brandon Ingram really showing off. I still don't think the Pelicans can win this series, but I'm very concerned about, even if Devin Booker returns soon, I'm very concerned, especially with the reemergence of this Warriors team, how the Suns are really going to fare now the rest of the way.
Yeah, I mean, the earliest that D-Book could come back is in the middle end of the next series.
Yeah.
Which would be against the Mavericks and Jazz. And with that series, I mean, that's a pretty tight series, but it seems like Dallas is actually going to pull out because they have Luka full health now. He's back. He is Luka Doncic. I know Donovan Mitchell is kind of nursing an injury right now also. So do you think tonight Dallas is going to advance, or do you think this is going to game 7?
I think Dallas will finish it tonight. Utah, I'm honestly surprised just with the way
I'm surprised too.
Yeah. I mean, they were my initial preseason prediction to get to the finals, but even they just have not been playing well enough to be able to deserve to win this series. Like, you can argue they don't even deserve winning 2 games. And now that Luka's back, it's going to be really hard to stop him and slow him down. Just the Jazz it's just not their year. And the Mavericks have a very legitimate shot if the Suns win at upsetting the Suns, I believe, especially with Devin Booker's later return in the series.
That's what I was about to ask you, and I didn't fully hear you. Let's say it's Suns Mavericks next round. Do you have the Suns still winning it if D-Book comes back at the later stage of the series, whether that's game 5 through 7 or whatever, or do you think that the Mavericks could pull ahead while the Suns do not have Devin Booker and could steal a game once the Suns get Devin Booker back? Like let's say it's 3-2 Mavericks and D-Book's back for game 6. Do you think out of those last 2 games, which one of them would be at home in Dallas, do you think the Mavericks could actually pull it out and get to the Western Conference Finals?
I do. I think at that point in the series, I think it'll be too little too late. Even if Devin Booker returns, like you got to remember that'll be his first game coming back into a playoff action off of an injury, going against one of the hottest teams up to that point, probably was in the Western Conference in the NBA. If Devin Booker's able to return a little bit earlier in this series, where hopefully the Suns can maybe take a game or two before he gets back, I still believe the Suns could win this series. But if that's the scenario we're looking at, I just don't believe Devin Booker's going to be enough to knock off the Mavericks team.
Okay, so what if it was like a 2-2 going game 5?
I believe then the Suns would win. I think with the Mavericks are sitting at 3 games and they just have to win one of the remaining 2. I think they're able to get it done.
Okay. All right. That could very possibly how it turns out. That could very possibly be how it turns out. But I don't think there was a series that we didn't talk about. Right. I mean, there's the Bucks Celtics. I think the Celtics will win that.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be Grizzlies, Warriors. I think the Warriors are right now in the Western Conference the best looking team. Suns,
Mavericks.
Suns, Mavericks could be a close call. Depends even if the Suns go. I mean, it wouldn't be awful though if the Suns ended up winning in 7, because it gives them time to have D-Book back in the series for the next series.
Right.
Gives them more time. I'm not saying that they're looking to do that. They're not gonna be like, all right, guys, let's push this to game 7 so we can give D-Book more time before we get into the next series. No, but it wouldn't be the worst. They ended up winning in 7.
Mm-hmm.
Mavericks moving on. Heat already moved on. I think we both think the Sixers, but you want the Raptors to move on.
Yeah.
In which I think either of those teams I don't think can compete with the Heat at all. I think I think the locks, knock on wood, locks, Celtics, Heat, Warriors, and I don't know between Mavericks and Suns.
Oh, God, the locks is giving me a heart attack. We got to be careful with that.
Yes. I knocked on wood. I know. But you have anything else? Any predictions? Anything else to say about the NBA playoffs?
No, I'm excited to see now that we're shrinking down the field a little bit. It's going to get a lot more exciting with obviously the best of the best remaining. So it should be a fun finish.
Okay, I mean we're a little early to when I wanted to start the mock draft, so we can talk about the MLB a little bit. Okay. Question for you: what do you think of the Mets?
It pains me to say this, but there's really not a lot of bad things. Are you talking about the Cardinals thing, or are you just talking about the Mets
overall?
In overall,
why
okay.
Are they getting hit so much in the head, dude? Like, it's not like they're like the bad boys of the MLB right now. I don't think they've done anything really wrong. They're not playing dirty. They're just getting hit in the head.
No, I mean, in regards to that, like, I don't really blame it. Obviously, after the first couple of times, then it starts to get intentional based, but a lot of it has to do with the structure of the ball, and pitchers are they're not intentionally doing it for that reason. It's just the ball is not a great state right now. But in regards to the Mets, considering they don't have Jacob deGrom, and considering I still believe they have the best starting rotation ERA in the MLB, Chris Bassett has been amazing. Tyler McGill has been amazing. Carlos Carrasco, I know he had a rough outing a couple of days back, but he's been good. Max Scherzer is always great. And then you got Francisco Lindor, who's having a bounce back year so far. And then you have a bunch of other role players in that lineup that I believe they have the highest run differential in the league right now. Obviously, top record in the MLB. Obviously, many people expect, just as a normal Mets progression of a season, there's a point in the season where they somehow collapse. Maybe it won't happen this year. I still believe the Braves are going to win this division with the slow start they're getting at. Ronald Acuna is expected to return tonight. I still like their chances, but I don't want to say surprised by the Mets just because they put the money into this team and now they're getting the results. I just don't know how long these results are going to last for.
Now, what about another team that's kind of doing the opposite of surprising people is the Houston Astros. They're struggling right now. They're at 5. They're playing 500 ball right now. We weren't really. I mean, they're in a weaker division. I mean, they're still only 2.5. I mean, I'm talking about this because the first month of baseball is over pretty much now. Yeah. When this comes out, and they're 2.5 back from the Angels, who are 12-7, and Houston's 9-9. And I'm looking at their schedule. They could sweep the Rangers. They're looking like they will. They lost the series to the Blue Jays, lost the series to the Angels, lost the series to the Mariners. It's just like right now they're kind of in a little bit of a rough stretch. So are they going to bounce back?
I think so. I mean, it seems like it's been a common theme across the league. And a lot of it could have to do with the structure of the ball, but a lot of bats have been really slow to get out of the gate. A lot of averages below 200, mid 200 to low 200. Like a lot of big names are underperforming. Just looking at the Astros lineup, you got Yordan Alvarez hitting 240, Yuli Gurriel 207, Alex Bregman 254, Aledmus Diaz 156, Kyle Tucker 191. This team, I believe, has a batting average in the lower third of the MLB right now. And as a team, that is not something that they pride themselves on, obviously being one of the more higher powered offensive teams in years past. But one notable thing that has been pretty good so far, the return of Justin Verlander. He has a 1.73 ERA right now, coming off of Tommy John surgery. Love to see that he got back his form. The rotation, other than that, has been a little bit shaky. I'm not too worried about them because it is only a month in, but it is definitely a cause for caution just in case some of these bats don't show up. And props to the Angels for the start they're off to.
I mean, don't forget about the Mariners either, man. Like
that's right.
Mariners are doing it too. They've just played one less game than the Angels. They have the same amount of losses with 7. So it's interesting. It's interesting to see. I just wanted to ask your opinion on those two teams that have surprised the league after this first month of baseball in two different ways. I don't think we thought the Mets would be this good to start off, and I don't think we thought Houston would be this bad to start off.
Yeah, even another team I just want to quickly mention, the White Sox, before I think they won today, yes. They were on like a 7-8 game losing streak, and they're in second place right now with the Twins leading the division.
Yeah, they're lucky they're in a bad division.
Yeah.
Being 7-10 and being in second place in the division.
A minus 20 run differential for them right now.
I mean, I know they're dealing with injuries, but I'm looking more at their runs scored. 57 total runs scored. Where does that? Let me look at something real quick. Runs scored, bottom. Yeah, it's the fourth lowest in the entire league. The only teams ahead of them with lowest runs scored is Kansas City, Baltimore, and Arizona.
Being with those teams, that's not a good thing at all, especially with those teams we expected to be at the bottom. We didn't expect the White Sox to be at the bottom.
No, but I mean, Eloy Jimenez being out, being carted off the field, which is you rarely see that. I mean, his injury, it was gruesome, like him tripping on that base.
Yeah,
it was not pretty, and we've seen that multiple times. So him being out is a big minus to the lineup. So that I completely forgot about the White Sox. I mean, it's just because they're sitting in second place, so you're like, oh, they're fine.
One more thing though. I don't know if we expect them to be this bad, but the Reds have the worst record in the MLB, and it's not even close. They only have 3 wins out of 19 games.
I mean, that's
considering where they were last year. Now they don't have any of those guys.
but like they're 1-9 in their last 10. 3 wins. They're already 10.5 back from the leader in the MLB.
But the good thing is, like with this significant gap already, they could already start planning ahead for the number 1 pick next year's draft. So
I guess maybe just start actually trading Luis Castillo.
Yeah, to the Angels.
To whoever. Get him out of there. He doesn't deserve to be there. Joey Votto needs to stop making TikToks. It's obviously, I think it's a curse of some sorts. I'm not sure, but yeah. All right. Now we've hit the time that I'm happy with.
I'm glad.
Now we can talk about the NFL. The draft is happening tonight. We've waited. We've held off. We are finally going to be giving mock top 10 for the NFL draft this year. I mean, I'm doing the odd numbers. Jett is going to be doing the even numbers.
And just so everyone knows, this was determined in a pre-show coin toss, and the heads was odds, and obviously Eric landed on heads, so he will be awarded the odd picks in this draft.
Yes, so we can start off right now. Jacksonville Jaguars with the first overall pick. It seems like they're always there because they are always there. I think people are thinking too much into this right now. It's Hutchinson. It's Hutchinson. I don't understand the hype around Trayvon Walker. I don't think he's the first overall pick worthy. I don't get it. I think people are just trying to be too cute about it with Trayvon Walker trying to go number 1 overall. I don't even think he's top 4 potential, honestly. I really don't. I mean, Hutchinson is dominant and consistent. He has been consistent for his time when he was at Michigan. Trayvon Walker has only been a starter for 1 year. For 1 year. Why, like an actual starter, a proven starter for 1 year? We're overreacting to this? I mean, it's just, I don't get it.
I'm disappointed, Eric, because
do not say
no. I'm not disappointed because you chose Hutchinson. It's because that's who I had going in the next pick.
Oh, I'm sorry, but
no, but I have another one ready. It's okay. I'm prepared.
Like, is it? People should not be surprised when Hutchinson goes number 1 overall.
No, I mean, it's a tough call. It really is, because a lot of the rumors, which obviously we can't believe, are pointing in potentially either Walker or an offensive tackle. But
I would get an offensive tackle before Walker. I would understand more. I think it should be between Hutchinson and an offensive tackle before Trayvon Walker.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is they have Josh Allen like as an edge guy already. So them adding another edge guy,
but like that, like sacks and edge players who get sacks, because that's how you get your sacks. Those can end drives. Like if you can build up they have Cam Robinson right now. They just signed an extension to him. Okay, so you have your left tackle, but if you can get two defensive ends that are proven and can get to the quarterback Houston doesn't have a good offensive line. I mean, if you get these two guys right here, you can compete with the Titans and you can compete with Derrick Henry and put pressure on him right there. So you can try to stop Derrick Henry. The only team that and you have to compete with the Colts O-line. Now, I think that's why you should go and get Hutchinson, because in division, I think that's just how you should do it. That's how you should attack, because Houston does not have a good offensive line, so you can take over. So you can compete with Derrick Henry and the now lacking Titans offensive line. And so you can compete with that good Colts offensive line.
understandable everything you're saying. I think it's gonna be either Hutchinson or an offensive tackle at that number one pick.
Yes, I agree.
I mean, if all those Walker rumors wind up being true, I mean, it's not a Jaguars thing to like. It's a Jaguars thing to do that to make that kind of pick. So I don't think we should be too surprised there. But yeah,
I'm just doing like what would be best for that.
I know. So let me get to my alternative pick for the Detroit Lions, who have the number 2 pick. And there's been a lot of rumors swirling out there that this guy is going to be falling down draft boards, which I don't really understand, because before the emergence of Aiden Hutchinson, this guy was pretty much the number 1 guy when we're talking about edge rushers, and that guy is Kayvon Thibodeau from Oregon. And I think that the Lions really need to really target that edge rusher position, because they were 30th in sacks last year, dead last in QB knockdown. So this is a huge need for them. Obviously, they have other needs. They're going to need a quarterback eventually, some new weapons, whether it's Jared Goff or a quarterback they draft. They also have, I do believe they'll draft a quarterback with their second pick, which is the 32nd pick in round 1. But I do think with the premium that is being put on edge rushers in this draft, they go with Thibodeau in this one. And yeah, I mean, he had a grade of 83.2 from PFF in 2021. It's 60th among edge players, but like I said, a prominent name all throughout the college ranks, and a lot of people have him falling, but I just don't see the Lions passing up on someone like this.
Exactly. I think at the 2 pick, I think it is going to be between Thibodeau and Sauce Gardner.
Yeah.
Personally, I think I think no matter who goes, I mean, obviously if Hutchinson falls to the Lions, which I don't think either of us think is, I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it should happen, but I think it's between those 2 guys for the Lions to go and get. I don't think they're going to go tackle here. They need help on defense. So corner or edge, I like the pick. I think it's a good pick. I value Thibodeau over Trevon Walker myself, so it completely makes sense to me for him going 2nd overall. It would be a huge help for the Detroit Lions. A huge help getting a guy that can go and get you sacks and end drives.
Absolutely.
For the 3rd overall pick, I need your help.
Yeah.
That's how to pronounce his name. I keep messing it up. It's the tackle out of NC State. How do you pronounce?
Ikunwu. Ikunwu. Yeah.
Okay. Ikunwu. All right. I just didn't want to try and mess it up, but I think he's going to go to the Houston Texans. I know the Houston Texans have also been connected to defensive players like Thibodeau, like Gardner, like Walker. Out of those 3, if they would fall, but I think they're going to go the offensive tackle out of NC State. I know they have Larry Tunsil, but I think you need to build up the offensive line before you go out and get your QB. Not saying David Mills is unproven, but I don't know if he's the solution at all. He's a good stopgap for now, good trial run right here. But you go and get that tackle. The edges are set right there. You have your left tackle, you have your right tackle. If Larry Tunsil does get moved at one point, I know there's been trade rumors going around. Put him at left tackle. He can play left tackle. He is the 1A and 1B between best tackle in the draft so far. So I'm just don't overthink it. They need an offensive line. They don't have one. They only have Larry Tunsil. So if you get another tackle, and then you can just that prevents people from coming around your tackles and them to go in which there's already 3 guys there ready and waiting for them. So I think they're going to go the tackle out of NC State.
Okay. I mean, I definitely think they're either going to target someone on the O-line or D-line. I think it's just too early to take a quarterback, especially when you really want to see what you're working with Davis Mills. I mean, the Texans are being linked now to Baker Mayfield and Jimmy Garoppolo. So we'll see what happens on that end. But Number 4 in this draft is the New York Jets, and this is the first of 2 picks in this draft in the first round for them. We could see one of these 2 picks potentially packaged for maybe someone like Deebo Samuel, or maybe packaged for another proven wide receiver. And obviously, wide receiver is one of those positions where they want to upgrade, but I don't think they do it here just because the wide receiver talent in this draft isn't the type of talent that we see going in the top 5, top 7, maybe top 10. So maybe I go with them for the 10th pick, but I'm going to stick on the defensive side of things here and go to the secondary. And Eric mentioned this guy's name a little bit earlier. Sauce Gardner, cornerback, Cincinnati. I think he is a perfect fit for this Jets team who is in need of additional help on the secondary, additional help on that defense in general. Gardner didn't allow a touchdown in his career in college, allowed 14 yards on 4 targets against Alabama in the college football playoff semifinal. He's definitely going to go in the top 10. Maybe he doesn't go in the top 5. Maybe he falls a little bit, but the Jets definitely need some secondary help, and he will go a long way in continuing to bolster that group up.
I mean, out of all overall prospects, where would you rank him in overall prospects?
Oof.
Because, I mean, obviously you have him going 4. I mean, is he your 4th best player, or is it just because of scheme fit and what the team's needs?
I wouldn't say he's the 4th best player in this draft. I mean, he's definitely a top 10 player. You can argue top 7, but I think he fits with what the Jets are trying to do. And obviously it's a position of need. And when looking at like the other secondary players available, like I considered someone like Kyle Hamilton, safety out of Notre Dame, but positions such as corner, edge, they're more of a premium in this draft, and safety isn't as big of a need, especially with there being comparable players later on in the draft. So Sauce was part of that great Cincinnati defense that in that run they were on last year. There's so many guys from Cincinnati on the defensive end that are going to get their name called in this draft, but I believe he'll be the first one from that group called.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's top 5. I think this if he were to fall to 7 for my Giants, I don't think the Giants are going to pick him 5. If he were to fall to 7, I would be ecstatic to pick him up because the Giants also have a need at cornerback. But it's worrisome. It is worrisome to be picking a cornerback in the top 5, let alone top 10, because I mean, there's a lot of speculation about like quarterback can be the hardest position to transition to the NFL. Maybe second behind that is cornerback. I mean, cornerback is hard.
Oh, yeah.
Just a position in general, that is hard. And then him having to go up against, like, let's say like a Devontae Adams.
I know.
That's a lot to ask. So it can be a big risk, but it can also be a big reward. I mean, you could get yourself a Jalen Ramsey type of corner right here. That's who he's kind of being compared to. So, I mean, if they could get him, then well, I think that's a really good move by the Jets. And I like the pick myself too that you made. But going to number 5, my Giants. I'm happy I got the odds because the Giants have the odd number picks. This is the thing right now. This is what I see in a lot of mock drafts, and I think people are just overthinking the shit out of this. There's a lot of speculation that Charles Cross from Mississippi, the tackle from there, is going. If the Giants pick him at 5, I will already not like Joe Schoen. I will already dislike him so much because it's Evan Neal's. It is Evan Neal's tackle out of Alabama. Let us not overthink this, okay, guys? He's my tackle 1 because I see him as the most pro-ready tackle. I think the guy from NC State maybe have a higher ceiling, but right now, put him at right tackle, he can possibly be a Pro Bowler. I think that is very possible. This is the guy that I think has very good potential of falling at 5 is Evan Neal. I think there will be a tackle. I think it's going to be the guy from NC State. But it's just that. It's just that simple. Let's not get too cute again. And I'll protect Charles Cross. All right. Let's not do that. Let's just get Evan Neal out of Alabama, who has been a starter for 3 years. And then just bam, there we go. Just that at 5.
That sucks. It really does, because that was my next pick for the Carolina Panthers. So I'm gonna, don't worry, like all my picks, I have backups ready just in the event that Eric looked at my notes before the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, you talked a lot about Charles Cross, and that's who I'm going to go with my pick for the Carolina Panthers. A big question is, will the Panthers take a quarterback in this spot? I do not believe they do that. I think it is way too early still for a quarterback. Obviously, they're not going to go anywhere with Sam Darnold, but I think they will either try to trade their way. We could see the Panthers trade down for this pick, because obviously they don't have any other picks in the first round. So if they want to potentially, move down a couple spots, and I'm sure teams are going to be willing to get some of these prized possessions on the offensive line and defensive line. Wouldn't be surprised if that happens. But if the Panthers stay here, I do think they target the offensive line, and my pick for them would be Charles Cross. The reason being, they've really had a revolving door at the offensive line. Seven different starting tackles in the past 7 seasons, and the Panthers have only spent 2 of their last 18 draft picks on offensive linemen. I think it is a huge need for them. You want to protect the quarterback first, and then worrying about getting that quarterback, because obviously if you have no protection, no quarterback is going to be able to survive around behind that line. A lot of people have Charles Cross have really, really high grades coming into this this draft tonight. I like his potential for him to succeed in any system, but I think this would be a great pick for the Panthers to make.
I think so too. I don't know. I think I have Charles Cross as tackle 3 behind that NC State, and then Evan.
I agree. Yeah,
I'm just wondering, like, if Evan Neal and Akuwu, if that's how you pronounce his name, goes in the top 5, like, how much of an increase are the chances of Carolina just trading out of that pick?
I think they heavily increase. I think because
I think you can get Charles Cross in the teens.
I agree. Especially with it's a pretty steep drop off from the next best offensive tackle.
The next guy is Trevor Penning, and like mocks have him going in the mid-teens.
Yeah, so that sums it up right there. Like, I think do think though, if the Panthers trade down, I don't think it's going to be for Cross. I think it's going to be for a quarterback.
Yes, yeah, they might. I mean, but like, there's been like talks of Houston Texans with the 13th pick wanting to trade back in the top 10. So like, you could do that. You could drop down to 13, in which then Charles Cross may still be available, but then even if he's not, I think that's a prime spot to, like, if you want to get Malik Willis, you can get him at 13.
Right.
Because I don't think there's any teams really ahead of them that like are dying or willing to in the top 10 like the only other team is really ahead of them would be like Washington with the 11th pick, but I don't think they're going to be willing to do that. So I think that's what to look out for. If the top 2 tackles go, watch for Carolina to trade out of that pick.
Absolutely.
Number 7, the guy that I was kind of shitting on for going first overall in a lot of mock drafts. I would be happy if the Giants were able to get him at 7 with Trevon Walker. I think that would be great. I think that's the strategy for the Giants. You go tackle at 5, and then you hopefully get either Thibodeau, Walker, or Gardner, whoever is there. If they're there at 7, you get one of them at 7. The only chance is if both tackles, both Akuwu and Evan Neal, both go before their 5th pick, then you get that defensive player and you trade the 7. Because I don't want to reach, because there's like a lot of drafts having Jermaine Johnson, the D end out of Florida State, going 7th, which I think is too high, and I would not. I would rather just trade that pick, move down into the teens maybe with the Texans, I don't know, and get another first-round pick for next year's draft. So, but I'm in this order that we're doing this mock draft. I want to pick up Trevon Walker, D end. I think he'll be a great fit. I would love him. He we finally have someone that like can get after the quarterback.
Okay. I like the pick. Now it gets tricky. Because the Falcons have several several different routes that they can go with for this pick. Obviously, quarterback being in need. They need help on defense as well. So this is where it gets very tricky. You could also argue a safety, edge rusher. But do we really believe that a quarterback is going to fall out of the top 10, even with how poor of a class that we're expecting this to be every year? I honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Malik Willis goes in the top 7, top 5, just because of teams being willing to reach up for a quarterback, just because these are these prized possessions that cornerstones of teams that if they work out, it's a franchise game changer. So with that being said, the Atlanta Falcons with the 8th pick are going to take Malik Willis out of Liberty. From everything coming out of his, the Senior Bowl, his pro day, there's a lot of comparisons out there to potentially someone like a Jalen Hurts or a somewhat similar skill set to someone like Josh Allen. I do believe he will go, if not the top 10, definitely the top 15. Obviously, he has weaknesses that really needs to be cleaned up, especially him being very raw as a passer. He has the speed, he has the athleticism to be able to make the throws, just like some of the ever-changing position of the quarterback, some of the other names like a Josh Allen are able to do. Falcons have Marcus Mariota. Obviously, that's not their long-term option. I think they're going to address a quarterback. If not here, maybe they trade down if they think it's a little too early to take Willis. But I think Willis and the Falcons would be a great fit.
Yeah. I think I would be a little surprised by that. I'll be honest. If the Falcons were to go, and I would consider it a reach at QB, I think another option for them could be a wide receiver.
You really think that we're not going to see a quarterback in the top 10 though? Like if it's not one of the teams currently in the top 10, like
I think the most likely team in the top 10 to get a QB, I think for me would be the Panthers.
Yeah, I mean it's close between the Panthers and Falcons for me, but if the Panthers stay at where they are, that's way too early for a quarterback. And obviously you can argue it's still a little too early still for the Falcons, but even with there being not many teams after them and needs for a quarterback, maybe the Seahawks, maybe Washington, like you could trade down, but every year someone reaches on a quarterback, and obviously a lot of the times it doesn't work out, but it's just the nature of the position and the nature of how it's been drafted.
All right. Yeah. Number 9, Seattle. I think James Cross would be a great fit for them if he falls to 9. I think that'd be great. But obviously for this, you have him going to the Panthers. So what I will be doing is getting a guy that for some reason in this last week or two, his stock has just skyrocketed, and that's Derek Stingley Jr.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know where it came from. Like he was projected to be a mid-first round guy, and now it's debatable of like, is it Stingley or is it Sauce Gardner? Who's the top cornerback in the draft? And I just don't know where it came from at all, but I think it'd be great. They obviously have good safeties at the moment. So they could, if they get this cornerback and he's a success, then man, we have like the Legion of Boom 2.0 with a lockdown secondary. And then, but I think what would be best for them, I don't know if it will happen. I think what would be best for them is an offensive lineman. That's been their biggest hole for years now. That's why Russell Wilson got traded, because he had issues with the lack of an offensive line to protect him. But they obviously, I think it's way too early to go and drop down and go and get drop down in the rankings and get Trevor Penning, unless they want to trade out of it. I think they're going to stay in the top 10. So Derek Stingley Jr. out of LSU.
I could see, like, obviously if Cross drops, I think the Seahawks to take him would be a good match. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe the Seahawks want to trade up for someone like an Evan Neal or Ikem Ekonwu of NC State, just because of the offensive line's been such a problem for so many years. Obviously, a quarterback is also a concern, but to take a quarterback after Malik Willis has gone in our draft would be extremely early. With the next one, probably I do expect another quarterback to be taken in the first round, but it's still way too early for that. But for the 10th pick, this is the second of the New York Jets' 2 first-round picks. And like I mentioned with the first pick, this is also a potential pick that could be traded for someone like a Deebo Samuel. If it's not traded for Deebo Samuel, I targeted the defensive side of the ball the first pick. We got to get Zach Wilson some more weapons on the offensive side of the ball. So with this pick, I have the Jets drafting Garrett Wilson, wide receiver out of Ohio State. Great fit, really, on any offense. He is that volume-based wide receiver that can really be a target hog for someone like Zach Wilson, can really, improve upon Zach Wilson's game, complement both sides of the ball, both sides of his game. Obviously, like a lot of wide receivers coming out of college, there's still some things that he needs to refine, but I think he is the best wide receiver in this class. And there's a lot of good ones. The wide receiver class is very deep, and there's going to be a lot of good names, whether it's later on in the first round, later on in the draft. But the Jets need some more playmakers, and Garrett Wilson is definitely a playmaker.
Looking at this top 10, this mock top 10 we only have 2 really skilled positions going, and one QB that you think is going to be a reach, and Garrett Wilson, who is, I think, a reasonable fit. How big of a gap do you think there is between Garrett Wilson and Drake London?
I don't think there's a significant gap between any of the first 3 receivers on most big boards, whether you're talking about London, Burks, Wilson, Olave, also Jameson Williams. If he wasn't coming off of an injury, you can make a case that he deserves to go really high in this draft. But I think wherever he goes, I think it's going to be a steal. Hopefully, he recovers successful from the injury, but you can make a case like there's 1A, 1B, 1C when you're talking about London, Burks, Wilson. Could throw an Olave in there as well. It might not be a top heavy class, but it's definitely a deep class.
Yeah, absolutely. But that was our top 10. Here's a quick little one. We got a little bit of time left. Kenny Pickett going in the first round.
Yeah, to the Lions.
Last pick. Not
yes.
The Steelers. Not worried about the Steelers getting him at all.
I just don't see it. I see them maybe drafting, not in the first round, but second or third round, someone like a Desmond Ridder or Matt Corral, something like that. Pickett is obviously it's a big good match. Local kid. They need a quarterback. Mitch Trubisky is obviously not the long-term answer, but I think we see, I don't know if you agree with this, but I think we see only 2 quarterbacks taken in the first round.
Okay. And that's the over under is 1.5.
Yeah.
And it comes up to the last pick.
Last
pick, the 32nd pick. I could definitely see if Kenny Pickett falls there, I think that'd be a great value pick for the Lions to do, because then they have their second round pick, right?
Yeah, it's going to be hard, obviously, for the Lions to get him. I think we could potentially see them even trade up, maybe leap ahead of someone like the Steelers if they really want to pick it. But yeah, I think there's a good shot he ends up with the Lions.
Okay, how many wide receivers do you think are going to go in the first round?
Oof.
You think the top 3 that we were talking about?
Definitely the top 3. I think Jameson Williams also, if you're including him. I think Burks, Wilson, Williams. London,
Olave,
yeah.
5. You think all 5 could go in the first round?
I do, because think about it. You got the Chiefs need a receiver, the Packers need a receiver, the Jets need a receiver. Who else? Falcons obviously they're not going to take one that early. Vikings maybe, Colts don't have a first round pick, but Saints maybe. There's teams that need wide receivers. Will those teams take it in the first round? That's a question. But
the Patriots be wanting one.
True. That's because I feel like these 5 receivers are very close. That a lot of teams probably have first round grades on them. It depends. Obviously, you're gonna see a lot of defensive and offensive players fall as well, but I'm gonna say 4 is my final number.
4. Okay. Over under set at 4.5.
Yeah.
All right. Well, guys, that was episode 50, the David Robertson episode. I thoroughly love doing a mock draft.
Also love it every time.
Love it. But yeah, guys, that was episode 50. We hope you enjoyed. Peace out.